never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it'll change your life.
Hello, everyone. This is Dungeon Master of None.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
And I'm Dungeon Master Rob.
See if we intersperse it. It's more
Right. Well, I always try, to anticipate what you're going to do, but and then I fuck it up. I overthink it every single time.
It's like we can finish each other's
sandwiches.
Yes. Okay.
What are we talking about today, Matt? We're gonna get back to basics.
Yeah. Let's. I thought it would be fun. To build a town. Lots of folks are always asking about intro adventures and how to get started. If you have new players or old players, I don't think there's a better way to start off than by building a little town for your players to fuck up.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing that we we did a bunch of world building episodes and we sort of overlooked this. We talked about all the various levels of government in all sorts of other ways, but it really... town building or like settlement building is something we skipped over.
The polis, Rob.
Yes, the most important unit of the nation state. There used to be pretty robust rules for building or generating settlements, everything from like a hamlet up to a metropolis. But I think 5th edition has done away with those.
There's some general advice.
They're not as crunchy, I guess. It's still there though. The GM's guide has some stuff, but this is a good and time-honored tradition, an important thing to do when you're homebrewing, or if you want to spend a little bit more time in a particular town. It's good to think through all of these things. So what are the...
Well, I was going to say, I think we can demonstrate some of the principles by doing. I was just going to ask you, what's the smallest town you've ever lived in?
I lived in a town of 400 people for a little while, a little bitty like ski town, but not really, in Colorado. Lake City, Colorado.
Seems like a very Colorado thing to do.
It's a nice place. It looks pretty in the winter. It gets very cold. It's isolated. About halfway between Montrose and Gunnison.
Oh yeah, of course.
How about you, Matt? What's the smallest town that you have lived in?
Let's see. I've lived in a town of 7,000 people for a good chunk of my childhood.
Wonderful.
It was very small.
Proper.
Nothing happened there.
Rural. Yeah, location.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that happened was...
big enough to have a McDonald's, but not big enough to have a mall, maybe?
No mall. Let's see, 7,000 will... This was before the Walmart days. Walmart's the only store there now. But back then there was, let's see, a McDonald's, a Subway, and a Sonic, I think, were your fast food options.
Fine, a fine place to live.
But then it was very sad. The Subway collapsed and was replaced by a Sub Stop. And if you've ever been to a Sub Stop, you'll never want to go back.
Would you say that it's subpar, Matt?
It's very subpar. And despite the fact that we had tons of oil money.
Where was that oil money going, Matt? I wonder. Anyway, next question.
The steakhouse, the kebab steakhouse. Yeah, so I think building a small town is really great in that you can introduce low to even mid-level players and they can immediately deal or interact with all the kind of power players in town, right? Mm-hmm. They can sort of gain some kind of bit by bit a web of understanding of what's going on and then decide how they want to deal with it or fuck it up.
Yeah, and if you were going to use this for a low-level or introductory adventure, this is the logical place to start, right? Somewhere where low-level adventurers can have an impact, can, like Matt said, interact with the people who matter in the town to an extent.
What kind of genres does this town building work best with? I think there's a couple answers that are more correct, maybe.
Sure. Well, the town with its inns and taverns and smithies is a core aspect of your high fantasy or fantasy in general. Kind of, in fact, a lot of D&D sort of hinges around the idea of the town or towns being significant parts of the polity.
Yeah, I also think kind of your general horror, or
Ooh.
like if you want to do like a light or heavy horror campaign, like a creepy town with lots of weird things going on is super great, right? You know, this
Sure.
goes for
Your,
modern stories as well as D&D.
creepy town in the Louisiana Bayou, your creepy town in the secluded mountains of Maine, your creepy town on the East Coast populated by fish people. It's classic.
Yeah.
Another key town setting is, of course, the Western. Westerns really sort of lean heavily on small, like, boom towns or isolated villages, rancheros, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like the Western a lot. We haven't done anything too Westerny yet.
We have not done anything too. Is that true? Yeah, I think we've avoided. I mean, we you and I, we love a Western trope here and there, and so we've definitely included them. But I don't think that we've done a Western themed anything yet.
Well, I don't know. I think it might, if we have to pick a genre, what do you want to do to build our town? High fantasy?
Yeah, if we're talking towns, let's do a Western. I had already been thinking about that a bit.
Is there any Forgotten Realms spots that work pretty well for a Western, or should we head back to our favorite Eberron?
I was looking through the Atlas the other day for a different desert or some kind of warm weather climb. I couldn't find anything that I think would work really well for a Western. Maybe our listeners can give us some pointers. I'm sure that there's a West or Wild West type setting somewhere in Forgotten Realms, but if there is, I'm afraid I don't really know what it is.
Well, I know in Eberron that there's basically two parts of the world that are set up with this kind of genre in mind. The sort of boom new kingdom of Kubara, which is a border, half desert, half jungle, filled with lizard folk and runes. The only reason that humans are there is they found a bonanza of dragon shards, magical gems, and the Talinta Plains, which are full of barbarian halflings who ride dinosaurs. Also very good for a Western.
I mean, I love the idea of setting this in Kubara, especially thinking about it as a boom town, a frontier. I think that would work best. I like the Talenta Plains, but they're a little bit too. The feel is different. Kubara definitely has that tombstone type setting.
I mean, looking at the map of Eberron, I would say a great place for a Western town would be on the very edges of Kubara, where the Talinta Plains and either the Mirror Holds border on Kubara, or the sort of triangle where the Talinta Plains, Kubara, and Valinor, a military nation ruled by very aggressive elves, is. Mm-hmm. I think both of those could be interesting little spots. At either end of the in-world mountains, you got desert not too far away. On one, you got dwarves and pirates nearby. On the other, you got elves and pirates nearby.
Let's, for the sake of, let's call it synchronicity, why don't we set it in the southwest?
All right.
By the, on the border of the Talenta Plains and the Valinor elves, right? Is that where that is?
Yeah, that sounds absolutely perfect, right?
Yeah.
It could be a spot nestled up in the mountains, technically in Kubara according to treaty, but maybe there ain't too much law out here. And that gives us a bunch of interesting hooks to work with, right? Dragonborn and lizard folk, troves of dragon shard mines, tribes of halflings on dinosaurs, bands of elves that might raid things. Okay, how do you want to start building this town? We can start big picture with like a theme, or you can always just start small with fleshing out a few NPCs and going from there.
Let's see. Well, I do think we should start meta theme, because we want to ask ourselves, what is this used for, right? So this is part of or central to a setting or an adventure with a west that is Western flavored, Western in scope. So starting with that, I think that will help us sort of like narrow down what kinds of people and shops and adventure hooks and whatnot are available in this town.
Brother running this buffalo soldier. Look, it's like I told you. Any damsel that's in distress, be out of that dress when she meet Jim West. Rough neck, so go check the lawn and buy. Watch your step will flex and get a hole in your side. Swallow your pride, don't let your lip react. You don't wanna see my hand where my hip be at. With Artemis from the start of this, running the game. James West, taming the West, so remember the name. Now who you gonna call? Not the GB. Now who you gonna call? If you ever riff with either one of us, break out before you get bum rushed at the Wild Wild West. When I roll into the Wild Wild West. When I stroll into the Wild Wild West. When I bounce into the Wild Wild West.
Well, I think the purpose of the town is clear to me in that this is a town where I want level 1 adventurers to roll up to. Maybe they could be, level 2 or something like that. And stay for a couple weeks or months of gameplay investigating hooks and having mini adventures in as sort of their first adventure hub, if you will.
So let's like the theme is West, the idea is adventure hub. This isn't necessarily the way we have to structure it, but when I'm thinking about something for use in a game, what is the driving immediate term conflict in the town?
Yeah. What's the conflict of this city?
Are they going to be overrun by elven warlords? Is the mine running dry? Is one of the rich families, is their scion murdering prostitutes and, running rampant through the town? What's the thing
What's the biggest level of conflict we can come up with?
If we're, Clint Eastwood, the man without a name, rolling into the town, what do we identify as the main problem area?
Right. And not to say that all those things that can't happen, but so big problems. We could go with sort of a fistful of dollars conflict between two very powerful factions, or my other favorite one is to go with there is a new threat emerging to the stability of this town. It could be a cult. It could be, some prospector has uncovered some ancient evil. It could be some combination of the two.
I like the idea of adding, making it a little bit of a Western horror. A little Shadows over Brimstone feel. I like the idea of maybe there's a cult or an artifact, something that has poisoned the either actually or metaphysically the good people of this town. We need a name for the town.
Well, yeah.
Let's now that we've got a lot of feel, let's name it so that when we're talking about it. Kubara was settled by the Sirens, technically.
Siren Song. If it's up in the mountains a little bit, it could be the Sirens Airy. We can always come back to the name after we have some more stuff fleshed out, but
let's call it High Cyre for now.
High Cyre. Cyre, so, okay, well, that makes sense in that this could have once been, it was claimed and settled back when the Nation of Cyre, which, if you know your Eberron lore, existed, but it's now destroyed, and it didn't really come into its own until the last couple years.
Matt, just letting you know that Kubara was founded by Duke Ven Ir Keslon, a Siren refugee, which is why I picked this. So,
okay.
So this is post-Cyre, fleeing. Actually, that makes this even better. These are the refugees or settlers, technically colonists from a now lost civilization.
Right. So, okay, basically, if we're talking about factions, right, we could have some settlers who are basically, dirt farmers trying to rebuild their civilization. Obviously, we might have some halflings and elves in our factions. We might have some bounty hunters, etc., etc. But we decide the biggest conflict here is the cult and the artifact. Right. I know a little bit about Eberron lore, And one of the things that's always really interested me about the Talinta Plains is that there are a couple of really big threats in Quabara and the Talinta Plains. There are some ancient evil dragons, or not exactly evil, but nebulous,
malevolent
goals.
In a sense. Yeah.
Yes.
Inhospitable to mortals. Yeah.
Yes. They don't have your best interests in mind. There are some runes of feathered Yuan Ti who are actually beings of goodness.
That's right.
But of course, beings of goodness also get corrupted and things. And there is definitely at least one evil demon fiend overlord imprisoned out there in what was once Yuan Ti's civilization. Yuan Ti are like snake people. So that gives us a pretty good opportunity or set of things to deal with. You could always say there's also maybe a Dalkira, aberration flesh shaper that ended up over here instead of in the Dwarven Mountains. So those I think are maybe good sources for a cult.
Is a great choice for any corruption, but I leaned heavily on that on my last campaign. So I like the idea of the dragons in Quabara. They're interesting. Let's just say that they uncover some sort of draconic artifact that either... No, they don't. They just, like, the cultists are there. They're dragon cultists. Dragon cultists who have a powerful artifact of some sort. Yeah.
So, should there be an actual dragon, or is this a cult who's
the dragon, well, I mean, we could have some sort of dragonling or dragon creature.
An agent of the dragons are also
but
here?
I think the dragon itself should be quite a ways away.
Okay, well, what does this artifact do or want? What was the purpose of this artifact? Who made it, and what's it about? What is it driving some of these cultists to do?
Well, I want to bring in the lizard folk a little bit. Go away.
This is a camp, sorry.
Our significant others are basically adding hours to our editing time
to this podcast.
Thanks.
I want to bring the lizard folk in because they've got, because they're really deeply involved with the dragons, and maybe they're not the cultists, but the artifact is important to the lizard folk. The artifact,
they're the protectors. They were the protectors of the artifact,
yeah.
Maybe in a Indiana Jones type way. And
what does it do?
Last Crusade.
It now I'm going a different direction with this. I want to say that it does something good, and that the lizard folk who had it weren't necessarily evil. Maybe it is like an object that casts sanctuary or consecrate on a large area of ground.
Well, when you're talking artifact, Rob, I want to think beyond
you want bigger?
Spells.
You want bigger than that?
Like, what does it do in the plot, right?
All
right. Does it imprison? Is it one of the seals that imprisons a fiend? Does it predict the future?
I was trying to say small scale. Okay, but I hear you. Maybe it's just a big old dragon shard, Matt. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be. I'm open to your suggestions, Matt.
Okay, all right. So we've decided our main threat is going to be some kind of cult. So a cult needs goals and a leader and plans. So Rob says he wants the cult led by an artifact. So the artifact needs to have plans and goals as well. So I'm thinking, this cult believes that it could gain, how about just a cult of warlocks? I forget what the evil demon imprisoned in the region is called, but we can look it up. And this cult basically has figured out a way, maybe even without this evil overlord's permission, to draw power from a demon. So the artifact is perhaps a conduit for that power. People who do some sort of ritual with the artifact basically can gain warlock powers for a considerable while, or something like that.
Well, and so the demon overlords make great sense as potential patrons for warlocks, so that makes sense. So perhaps this artifact allows you to make new warlocks. It bonds you to your patron, so you can imbue upon somebody, a willing cultist, warlock powers, which is a pretty powerful tool if you're able to mint fresh warlocks as you see fit in service of the great demon overlord, whoever it is.
All right, here's a name from my list of overlords: Masveric the Cold Sun. How about we just call the artifact the Cold Sun? Okay. It is some sort of metal disc that, with or without Masveric's permission, the leaders of the cult have developed a ritual to basically draw power from them and make themselves into warlocks. Now, what do they want to use this power to do? Specifically in our town of High Cyre. What is their goal? Is it to take over the town and acquire wealth? Is it eventually to free this overlord? Is it perhaps to destroy these lizard folk that are good? And this is an elaborate plot to do that?
Yeah, so the town of High Cyre, it's small, it's not important. So what would the cultists want? We decided that most of the... All right, let me know if this is too convoluted. We decided that most of the townsfolk are dirt farmers, Siren refugees, settled here because they didn't have anywhere else to go. But this is Cubara. Maybe there was a mine of some value that is now spent, and thus hard times for High Cyre. But beneath the town, just out of reach, they didn't dig quite far enough, there is either a hidden dungeon or a cave or a deposit of dragon shards or mineral wealth that the cult of the Cold Sun wants to use to either bolster their power or perhaps free Mashvirik himself using that wealth or power.
Yeah, I like that. I think we definitely need a mine somewhere. If there's a spent mine that's like right in the middle of town that maybe the town grew up around, perhaps below the mine is something different instead of just more mine. How about one of those ruins of the Yuan Ti civilization? We could put a bunch of undead Yuan Ti there, and eventually the cult of the Cold Sun would like to either destroy that, hidden location or harvest the artifacts from it. There's something that they need down there. And within the cult, we can, of course, create people with differing motives. Maybe some people are using the cult to just gain power for some other reason, but, someone in the cult wants to destroy these good, get into this this.
Well, sure, you got to have your gullible rubes from the town itself that have joined the cult thinking to get powerful or maybe just get one over on their neighbor, but they're just being manipulated by the higher-ups, those with the true believers.
So, all right, so we have our big faction, I think, and the threat is that, here's my ideas. We create this town, players enter, it might not be their first mission, right? There's a couple of small threats, but the big threat that emerges is that there is a powerful cult that has infiltrated a lot of the town. They are maybe responsible for reopening the mine, which is seen as a good thing to many people. And they definitely have a base of operations within the town, and they have another sort of dungeon or interesting location outside of the town. I'm thinking, you mentioned there was a dragon here earlier. Perhaps their base of operations is an abandoned dragon observatory where the dragons studied the heavens and the great mysteries of the world, and they've taken that over. Maybe that's where they even found the artifact.
Beautiful. I love it. Yeah, that's 2 key locations. Okay.
Do we want to create a leader for this cult or start making some people and other hooks for what's going on? What other conflicts? Because we have our big axis in town, right? Cult versus stability. All right, I think, okay, other smaller conflicts in the town then. We could definitely have settlers versus maybe more profit-minded people who want to reopen the mine and make lots of money mining versus
I think, yeah, let's have some new arrivals. Maybe they're dragon-marked houses. Why don't they
House Thrash,
House Kundarak? They're bankers from Maror Holds just over the mountains, and they're speculating. They're speculators. They think there's more wealth to be had in the mines. They've moved in and set up shop, and they're financing it. But they
driving up property prices, buying people off their farms.
That's right,
etc., etc.
Exactly. Yeah.
Without getting too icky tropey, I think there's a fine conflict to be had of sort of settled people versus the types of nomadic folks that could exist here.
I was thinking
war
that
bands,
too. I'm thinking
halfling outriders.
The lizard folk could be a part of this. Some of them are friendly like, and their land has been taken or at least somewhat invaded. Plus, they positively want to help the villagers against this cult that serves an evil dragon, but nobody will trust them because they're lizard folk.
And how about, just because, why the fuck not, right? A conflict of, because I want to see it at my table, between elves riding horses, wielding magic and scimitars versus halflings on dinosaurs.
Halflings on dinosaurs, yeah. Maybe there's just like bands that come through, right? This is a common place to stop by.
And we could, in the more specific plot for the players to investigate, there's like a never-ending blood feud between both these warlike groups.
Yeah, and you could have an immediate conflict between traveling groups. They show up to town, and the Valinar and the halflings just can't get along and start fights. And then, it can get as big or as, tie into a larger conflict.
Other conflicts we can always have in a Western. We have to have somewhere there's a group of bandits who maybe are controlled by the cult or controlled by someone else, but they're basically a group of bandits versus everyone. Mm-hmm. No one likes these guys. Could be the player's first mission, in fact.
Mm-hmm. Just a bunch of thugs on horses, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's time to make some interesting NPCs for the town.
Pleasing you will hurt you somehow. Don't you try the queen of diamonds, boy. She'll beat you if she's able. The queen of hearts is always your best bet. Well, it seems to me some fine things have been laid upon your table, but you only want the things that you can't get. Desperado.
I agree. So, top down or bottom up, Matt?
Let's my usual go-to for NPC location or creation is scattershot. So I think as I create an NPC, I decide, is this a person who is a mere shopkeeper who might have a simple request for the players, or mastermind spider in the wings waiting?
I admire your freewheeling chaotic energy, Matt. So let's do
wild card.
Let's do it your way. Let's do it your way.
Speaking of wild cards, how about a card player?
A card player. I gotta have somebody who gambles. A gambler. A gambling man. I guess it should be a man. Let's see. They're a gambler. Ooh, I'm sorry. Too much fun. Let's make it a gambling warforged, Matt.
Okay. Chance.
Chance is pretty good.
Which is an actual, I had a kid on my Pee Wee hockey team named Chance.
I've had friends named Chance.
I hated him.
It's a name. Maybe in the same Chance. Wait, was this back in Oklahoma?
Yes.
Maybe the same guy. Anyway,
Maybe.
All right. So Chance, he's a warforged gambler.
And gunslinger who is wand slinger. Thank you. Who is just extremely down on their luck, which is why this is the only table they can afford. Of course, there's plenty of gambling going on with this newfound wealth coming into town from the reopened mines. Okay, let's see. What about a NPC who is basically allied with one of the factions? Do we want some law in town? Maybe a bounty hunter?
Yeah, let's
the head of the bandits?
Let's have a sheriff.
A halfling chieftain?
Ought to be a sheriff of some sort. A constable.
I think the sheriff should probably suck at their job. Make sure the PCs have something.
Yeah, no, we can't have a good sheriff. The sheriff is a
cleric, an old paladin of the Silver Flame.
Paladin of the Silver Flame. Very old. Probably good at his job back when he was in his prime, but it's just it's not up to the task.
Mind is wandering these days.
It's just, it's a different time. Not made. It's no country for old men, Matt. Let's see.
How about let's call him. I like the Silver Flame, silvered hair guy. Silver Suthar.
Silver Suthar. Okay, good. That's great.
That's his nickname, Silver Suthar, and with his longbow at his side, or longbow that he can't draw anymore, and long sword, he attempts to keep order from official writ from the King of Kubara, but maybe not anymore. And definitely needs some help.
Needs a hand. Let's see. Suthar has he's got to have a deputy. He's got to have a young, bumbling deputy. Let's see. She's a gnome, earnest, inexperienced, doing her best. A newcomer she's from Zalargo.
And her motivation is basically, she actually wants to take a more proactive approach than her boss. Okay.
Her boss. Joselan. Josie for short.
Josie. All right. So we have the law, we have the authorities. Who are some of the power players in town, right? I'd like to think of there ought to be maybe one Siren who's super rich. Maybe they're part of the cult, maybe not. We can come up with some shop traders. We need some people from the bank and House Kundarik. We need maybe some people who might be hired by the PCs, some wands for hire. Where do you want to go next? How about a power player?
Let's get a power player. So let's have a noble, somebody from the nobility of Cyre,
but now of Kubara, right?
Kubara. How about, they've got pretty normal names. Let's just go with Jasper
Irlasson.
There we go.
Count Jasper Irlasson. All right, he is the maybe came to this settlement with a lot of wealth and owned the first mine that sparked the boom here in town. He conveniently somehow owned the property the mine was on and has basically collected all of the royalties from it.
And now he owns several inns and gambling establishments in town. A real diversified portfolio. You wouldn't say that he owns the town, because there are others, but he's definitely the richest man in town.
Excellent. What about I would like, basically
how about a shopkeep, Matt? Let's get some salt of the earth. Give me a shopkeeper. Any number of shops.
Yeah, how about a sort of unusual shopkeep in that one of the fun things about the very scant entry on lizard folk is that they're very good at crafting things. So how about the one civilized lizard folk in town, civilized according to the humans, is a lizard folk who's basically the farrier, the wagoner, and the blacksmith.
Okay, I love it.
And his lizard folk name is a bunch of hisses. People call him Suit Scale.
Suit Scale, the shopkeep, runs the smithy and does all the ironworking.
And what does he want? He probably wants, does he want peace with the other lizard folk in town, which is why he came here in the first place? Or does he want, just, run his business and get wealthy? Is he?
I think Suit Scale's an outcast from his people. He wants to be left alone. He just wants to run his smithy and stay out of everybody's business.
Okay.
Oh, maybe he could be convinced. Maybe there's a part of him that wants something more. But
Yeah.
That's
All right. What would be a good on our sort of axis of opposition and someone opposed to Jasper Irlazin, the Count of the town? Maybe a business owner who is very, very successful and has threatened Jasper's both ego and money in his investments.
A dwarf, House Kundarak, a dragon mark heir, somebody with a mark, right?
Ooh, okay.
They're new to town. This is an
How
actual
about-
person. Dafan de Kundarak, new in town, very wealthy, very successful, does not like Irlasen's old money ways, thinks that he's stodgy and old-fashioned, and wants to see the town take a new direction.
Maybe they are the person starting the new mines, new for dragon shards elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm also thinking like a. So we said already, so it's canon that Count Jasper owns a inn and a gambling hall. There should be a third establishment that threatens his monopoly in the service economy of High Cyre. I'm thinking someone who runs that.
Well, it's got to be a brothel.
Could be a
And
brothel,
so
sure.
it should be the madam of that brothel.
Okay, how about what species do we not have yet?
Let's do a changeling.
A half-elf? A changeling? Okay.
There's a famous brothel in Sharn run by a doppelganger.
Yeah.
Let's say that maybe she's gone off on her own. She comes from she's well trained in that house. Velvets, I think. Come from
Yeah.
that house and to start her own heart of gold in the wilderness of Kubara.
Yes. Changeling names are easy. They're all one syllable. Tam, though, is it common knowledge that she or they or he are actually a changeling?
Oh, you're right. I think it should be common knowledge, and then I gotta fix my gender approach. The changelings are canonically not non-binary, right?
It depends. It depends on the changelings.
Okay.
I think some changelings are, some aren't, like humans, but I think maybe it's much more common and very few hang-ups on it.
Let's say that Tam spends most of her time as a woman, but yeah.
Okay, I like the idea that maybe no one knows she's a changeling.
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to go back on that. Let's say that no one knows, or few people know
this
that
is
Tam
how
is a
she was.
changeling.
They were able to start their business. Her one persona that is common knowledge in the town is that of, Madame Velvet or whatever.
Sure. Okay. And she runs the brothel.
And basically, people who don't like her are definitely Count Jasper.
That's right. And she just wants to keep her girls safe and, see the town be stable. She's got simple desires.
There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know I'm one.
Okay, cool. And then I love the idea that we started with the core conflict of the cult, because all of these organizations, from the bank to the gambling houses to the brothel to Count Jasper himself, can be infiltrated by this cult and have people who are members of the cult, right? And the cult wants to basically take over the town to get to this ancient temple that they know is there, but most of the people in the town don't know about, and the players certainly don't know about when they first arrive.
Yeah.
I'd also like to add, since it's a Western, we definitely need some lowlives, some people are trying to hide
some
out,
criminals.
people with some marks or bounties on their head. What about like a a person who's just like, all right, I'm trying to think of what would the first adventure might be, you know, go take out these bandits for us.
Yeah.
But the bandits know that the person who originally led their troop before they retired, person with a mark on their head, is hiding in town in plain sight.
So I like the idea of a halfling gang on dinosaurs. And so...
Oh, right. They switched from their sort of hunter-forager ways to just pure banditry.
Just pure banditry.
The halfling gang.
Maybe they didn't fit in the Tolenta Plains. Maybe they just decided it was easier to
The
prey.
lollipop gang, if you will. And we welcome you to High Cyre.
Let's call the leader Tolenta Red. He's got a westerny name. He's Tolenta Red is his gang.
Red Tolenta Red and his gang is just called Red's gang, right?
Yeah. Red's Riders. It's called Red's Riders.
Red Riding Hood. All right, sure. That's the first joke your players will make is Red Riding Hood. But I would say the gang is led by him and his lieutenants, but there are more than just halflings here. But they all ride dinosaurs, right?
Yep. Yeah, dinosaur gang.
And they have been the biggest thorn in everyone's side. Little do they know that maybe not Red, but Red's lieutenant is part of the cult, and they've been striking targets that have helped the cult out in their push to basically encourage people to reopen that original mine and dig a little deeper, right? In sort of a big long-term scheme that the players may not find out about until much later.
I like it.
How about
So the lieutenant, let's this is a human. She still rides a dinosaur. Her name is...
Well, the halflings call her...
Tall Jane.
Jane Three Bones, because she was originally a bone knight from Canaroth during the last war. And she still wears her bone armor, though, she never had any of the... She doesn't have any necromantic powers, but...
I like it.
She finds it's intimidating out here when she draws her sword and crossbow.
It's a three-bone Jane.
Three-bone Jane, and Jane Three Bones is the mole for the cult in Red's gang. And then I think we need to have someone the players can pick up a bounty on. How about we don't have a shifter yet? I'm thinking a shifter with a bad dog name like Mange or Cur.
Mange is good. Just Mange, yeah.
A shifter known only by Mange, who is just basically quick on the draw, wanted for murder, not affiliated with the gangs of any kind, but is laying low in town. This could be someone the players interact with. So, like, plot hooks, right? I'm thinking, right, we got all kinds of conflicts in town between the NPCs. Eventually, right, the players might investigate the headquarters of the cult in town, which we still need to do, and outside of town, they might go into the deepest part of the mine and find this undead Yuan-Ti temple. And, of course, there's plenty of adventures to be had outside of town, right? Bandits raiding farmers, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, as we've sort of set it up, the culmination is delving into this old Yuan-Ti catacomb and confronting either the cult or perhaps an even greater evil that they have uncovered, some sort of undead Kuwatl or some other creature, some servant of Rashak the dragon. Yeah. But there's plenty of things for them to do in the meantime. There's gangs to be dealt with. There's murderers to catch. There's simple things to solve, conflicts between people. Yeah.
So we've got a lot of plot hooks. It's always best, in my advice as a dungeon master, especially if you have new players or an unfamiliar setting, when they walk into town, give them that first thing to do right away so that things can open up after they solve that first problem.
So I keep picturing the 1993 classic Tombstone in my mind. We are describing this, and one of the first things you see when Wyatt Earp and his brothers, played by Kurt Russell and Sam Elliott and Bill Pullman, walk into town is the gang riding through, firing their guns in the air, red sashes, and then over time, their obvious lawlessness becomes very too hard to ignore. So I think the first thing that should happen when the team party rolls into town is they see Talenta Red or Talenta Red's gang just commit a murder in the middle of the street, and Silver Soother just can't stop it, can't do anything about it. He makes a feeble attempt to lay down the law, but they just ignore him and walk off.
Okay, the opening hook is they walk in, and in the middle of a raid on town from Red's gang. And Red's gang, right, it's harassing, right, the settlers, it's harassing the shopkeepers. I imagine that the Kundaric banker, Defon, and Count Jasper have sort of slightly fortified compounds, right?
Yeah, they've got their own armed men keeping them safe, but everyone else is at the mercy of Red's gang.
Right. So the players, any Dungeons and Dragons group I have, the players are going to confront this gang immediately. So I imagine maybe this isn't the whole gang, but a few of the gang members, and then the players can track them to their hideout, etc., or try and set an ambush for them themselves, right? Or try and call them out and confront them in force, right? And the town can tell them, oh, man, the gang is, there's like 20 people in it, right? You sure you want to confront them all at once, right?
Yeah.
You did a bad thing by killing those 2 Velociraptor riders.
Now their other dozen friends are going to come for you. You're in trouble.
Right. Okay, so that's an opening hook. I like to organize my towns in like sort of what are the other hooks that I want to keep presenting to the players, right? Like, what's a hook to get them interested in the location or the existence of the cult? What's a hook to get them caring about some of these other conflicts?
The mine is interesting, right? So I think we've already decided that we know what's in there, but when they get to town, I think that there's a sense that there's something shady going on with the mine. That there's not, because it was closed and now it's open, and there's rumors that this is all some sort of elaborate money laundering scheme by the Kundaracs, those bankers. So, this can lead to learning more about the cult. It can lead to uncovering the real truth of the conflict. It can
we should add in another plot where there is in fact an elaborate money laundering scheme going on here. Maybe that's how Count Jasper is getting rich.
I mean, I'm okay with that being true. It just, I like that idea. I mean,
to keep it simple, right? One rumor around town is that one of the miners has disappeared. The truth is a Yuan Ti skeleton that's guarding the temple, straight up broke through basically a secret door and murdered him and drug his body away. And now no one's going down in there.
And now they're covering it up. Yeah, that's a simple one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a cover-up. Miner has disappeared. There's a cover-up because of course, Count Jasper has bought many other mines and many claims, and the value of those would go down if...
Yeah, that's bad for business. That's a good hook. Okay. How about a hook?
Wagon trains are being raided, right?
Wagon trains are being raided.
And basically, both the halflings and the elves blame each other for them.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. But the truth is, it's the cult.
Yes. The cult. So I guess in the short term, right, the cult would like the town to completely collapse, right?
Yeah.
For everyone to pull up stakes and leave the area. And they want that to happen, sometime in the near future. So what's a good leader for this cult, either in town or over in their headquarters, somewhere on a peak in the mountains?
I like the idea of the cult leader being a member of the town. Somebody, this is always fun. It's somebody that you know and might not suspect. Let me know if this is...
How about I was going to say the wife of the count.
Ooh, that's good. I was gonna say the head of the Silver Flame in town. I was gonna go for a classic corrupted holy man, but I like let's go.
Remember, we have our sheriff is the a cleric of the Silver Flame. But we could always
it could be a different faith. But no. Let's go with Lady Kendra. Irlawson is secretly a cultist of Masvirik.
and a warlock,
and a warlock
and honestly,
yeah.
she hates the town, right?
She loathes it. She doesn't know why Irlawson brought them there,
but now she's ready to move on to bigger and better things, right?
Yeah, both to serve her Dark Master and to get revenge on all the people she hates. She is happy to see the town destroyed.
I like her as our sort of new master of the cult.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine the cult might have existed before she arrived, but
Yes.
she has a supernatural knack
She
for
has risen to
warlockness.
prominence. Yes.
Yeah. And she is favored by whatever powers the cult serves. I suppose it's the overlord Masveric. But I sort of like the idea that Masveric doesn't actually really fucking care about this cult.
No, of course
because the cult has no chance of freeing him.
Sure.
Doesn't
he
participate
gives
in
them
his larger
his dark powers in the form of warlock spells, but that's the extent of his
Do you like the idea that maybe the cult is taking this power without his permission? And that there might be some servant of Masvaric that's like,
yes.
I'd be happy to help you shut the cult down because you're siphoning power that he needs to direct his minions that are, furthering his 1,000-year plot to bring back an ocean of blood.
I like the idea that they're sort of operating off book because this one allows gives the players a chance to potentially ally with a different member of the cult, which they may not want to do, enemy of my enemy. And if they want to pursue this line of inquiry after the adventure wraps, once they move beyond High Cyre, then that's a really good hook, right? Like there's a greater, darker force beyond just these cultists that they have to uncover.
A Rakshasa who serves Masvaric.
Yes.
So I'm looking back over our town, and the one thing that at least me as a dungeon master I know is I'm missing is we got a lot of humanoid enemies, and a Western definitely is going to have more of those.
We need monsters, yes.
We need some fucking monsters. We have some undead under the mine in the old Yuan Tea Temple, and that's fun, but we need something. We need other monsters.
And
we got some dinosaurs.
Kubara is a wild place, so there's definitely some monsters for sure in this area. Yeah. Let's see what.
I'd go with one intelligent monster and 3 or 4 that have less, goals of their own. How about some sort of giant reptilian thing that the lizard folk that basks on the top of mountains and preys on sheep of the settlers and dinosaurs from the halfling alike? It's a good reptilian monster.
Some type of big lizard or reptile is good. How about a dire clawfoot? A dinosaur that is larger and angrier and meaner than its Talenta Plains cousins. Something large and predatory.
Yeah. I like they're outside there is a dire clawfoot that is holy to the lizard folk and feared by the halflings. What about this is just from the basic rules. What about a desert version of a Yeti? A tumbleweed Yeti.
Tumbleweed Yeti, I love that. Yeah.
And Yetis are not they speak their own language, and it is the last of the tropical desert Yetis. It has been causing problems because it's doing
It's
what?
hungry.
It's hungry. Okay.
It's hungry.
Yeah.
Its natural habitat has been disturbed by any number of these groups. It could be the cultists, but it could also be Red's gang or the halflings or the elves. Have set up shop, and it's scaring away all the game, and it's causing trouble.
Yeah. You take the Yeti and you flip all of the stats from cold to fire, and then there you go. This is what we have, right? It's instead of being afraid of fire, it's afraid of cold or water, and it is immune to fire instead of cold. Perfect. It's a desert yeti. Maybe it also rolls up into a ball and bounces along the desert like a tumbleweed. Maybe that's a little too silly.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Okay, we got a desert yeti. It maybe a monster hiding in town. I feel like the doppelganger's too obvious, but one of my favorite Eberron monsters, which we have a letter about this to answer next week, but is the roach thrall. There are roaches that inhabit human bodies, and maybe there is a small set of roaches that a small, basically family unit of them that are inhabiting 2 to 3 people within town.
I love that. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that monster from the 3.5 books. That's great. Yeah.
And then the Cult of the Cold Sun certainly has some monsters in its service, or at least in its hideout. I mean, down in the temple below the town, we can definitely have skeletons, zombies, ghasts. We can make some snake skeletons or feathered skeletons or some fun stuff like that. But the Cult of the Cold Sun makes me want to look up more of what Masferic's thing is. For example, like all the overlords have a domain, and his is reptilian creatures.
Yes.
Okay, so we can basically just add any reptilian creature, like a actual Naga.
I mean, maybe they should have Yuan Ti in their service. Though Yuan Ti, are there any
creatures of good in Eberron?
They're creatures of good. That's right. They're
but you could have some corrupted ones.
Nah, but there's no shortage of reptilian things, creatures to choose from. So what about Slod?
Ooh, yeah. I think slods in D&D are often used in the planar variety, but Eberron's planes work a lot differently. And so saying a slod is a demon of
right? Wouldn't that make sense? It's
absolutely perfect.
A demon of
Let's see. We probably want to use one of the lesser CR slods. And this slot is, of course, a thrall to the Countess.
Ooh.
I also think, so I'm imagining, the Countess basically has her crafting nook, which is in fact a giant dungeon under her husband's manor house in town. But, of course, there is their base maybe on top of a mountain somewhere. It was a former chamber observatory. It's got all sorts of weird things, maybe even some artifacts the cult hasn't found. And that's where the Slod and some of the lieutenants, who basically just do cult things all day, live.
I like that. So the Slod's there. I guess it's a red Slod. That's the CR5, which is a lot, but maybe they don't maybe they don't challenge this until midway through the adventure. Yeah. A party of level 3 adventurers can take a CR5 creature. There could also be Slod tadpoles, which are
maybe they're breeding Slods as part of their final thing that's gonna destroy the town.
Which are tiny, CR 1/8 monsters, but would be a good part of a greater encounter. Okay.
All right. And so I always like, after I've done all this, to try and map out things in my head, right? Get some simple geography. And this is obviously a terrible medium to do that. But, I think my advice to you is start with some simple lines. Put your town in the middle of a blank sheet of paper. I drew a line from bottom left to upper right that this is the edge of the mountains that the town is nestled in. There's a wagon trail heading back towards civilization. There's farmland along the wagon trail. There are mines scattered along the mountain's edge. Deeper into the mountain range, that's where the cult HQ is. I'm going to pick a spot for the bandit headquarters. I'm going to pick one of the mines that the players can investigate. And then I'll probably draw a map of the town. Probably keep it simple, like a single road. But there's obviously a lot more farmers and ranchers and a couple more shopkeepers and basically a bunch of people to go along in the entourage of each NPC.
this isn't by any means complete, but I do, I like the idea that we've sort of like laid out the bones of a town in an hour. But, one thing that we should do that before we would ever like use this is, put some actual, we talked about the shops that are there, but, some shops and actual locations, which Matt is undoubtedly putting on his map.
More cultists hidden among them.
More cultists, probably some, a mid-level cultist and some mooks to encounter.
The thing is, right, I would say, here's I've done this long enough that probably with another hour's time of just writing down names and establishments and making the characters, funny and interesting, this would probably be enough for me to begin running this 5-level series of adventures, right? That lead into a greater hook about the overlords.
Oh yeah, this would be more than enough for me to get started. And as we would play, I would explore further hooks and write down more names.
Yeah, obviously, I haven't
this is
mapped
more than
out
the
the dungeon of the cultists, but I know the players aren't going to make it there in their
first
session.
And this is a pro tip, for all you DMs, if you think that we start with everything fully planned. If you give yourself, enough to work with, you give yourself all the tools you need to succeed.
Right. And really, I think the only thing the town is needing other than, sort of finishing touches is just make sure that, I would go do another pass over these NPCs. I really like my players to have, really visceral reactions to most NPCs of empathy, loathing, sympathy, friendliness, or hatred, right? And make sure that, these NPCs are memorable enough that they're like, oh, Suit Scale the blacksmith. Oh, he was so sweet. We need to go back and see if he needs our help, right?
Okay. Any last touches before we sign off, Matt?
Well, we said we'd come back and revisit the name if we figured out we had a strong theme to the town. I'm pretty good with High Cyre.
I like High Cyre.
Unless you had a name that's like foreshadows the idea of a cult and an overlord lurking in the darkness.
With our rumblings one shot, we wanted to make sure that the town had a very suitably Western name, but I didn't want to revisit that and name it something like I don't know, Underdark or something suitably ominous.
Kyber's Maw. It's a friendly town.
It's a place where people go to settle down. The place where families live.
That we definitely need the town on the sign to have a very ominous slogan like the best big little town in Kabara.
Yeah.
The mines never run dry.
Yeah. Okay. So
New Cyre, hope is building again, or something like that.
Yes.
I like the idea that actual refugee
fate waits beneath you.
Fate waits beneath you. I like
your
the idea
destiny
that this
is below.
Oh, okay. So let's start digging. I like the idea that this town was maybe settled by sincere refugees, and this count has basically turned it into a profit-making.
He's made it into a company town. Yeah,
he cares not about reestablishing Cyre or anything like that.
Oh no, not at all. No, he's given up on his old nation, and now he's a little baron in Kubara. All he ever wanted.
Yeah. And he doesn't have an heir, but he means to get one off one of the ladies of the evening.
Yeah,
there could be a
good
TV show plot about this. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great hook.
It's the plot from Heart of Gold, episode 9, season 1 and only of Firefly. Is Firefly worth revisiting? It's been like 5 years since I've seen it.
I have seen the whole thing maybe 5 times, and I love it. It's been a long time though. I got a feeling that
I'm scared if I go back and watch it, it won't be as good.
The thing is, so sorry, this is a tangent, but like the problem is that like since then there's been the Joss Whedification of dialogue, and so like all the things that were quippy and funny in Firefly are now showing up in
every Marvel
movie, and so I just don't know that I would enjoy that, like those like snappy like clever bits, which were good and original in Firefly, and now are like extremely cringy and tired.
What's that Baldwin guy went off the rails and became
yeah, he sucks too.
Mr.
I mean, I can forgive an actor, but it's just makes it hard to watch.
Lots of people work on a show, not just one actor. But yeah.
Anyway, that's it.
This it definitely makes me want to go rewatch Firefly, rewatch Deadwood, get some ideas for some more interesting NPCs. Maybe throw in a little organized crime somewhere. Oh man, westerns are a lot of fun. Some wand slingers.
Yeah, that's what got me thinking about this, at least partially. It was like, you got a wand slinger. Somebody keeps his.
Speaking of wand slingers, maybe this will be, I think, up by the time this episode is posted. We'll include a link. We've updated our Advanced Artificer supplement
with 2 new subclasses, and we've now made it
basically 4 subclasses now.
4 total.
3 of whom are
two
new.
improved of our
3
last one.
Yeah.
It is now compatible with the actual Artificer. We changed the things that they changed, and yeah.
And one of them is a wand slinger, and I think it's fun, perfect for a Western. So would basically the Inventor subclass.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
Wand slinger, you can blast people with your bandolier of wands that have different cantrips on them. And of course, you get the bonus spell, Find Steed, because what's a wand slinger without his horse? Made of magic.
Magic horse. That's right.
All right, Rob. Well, this was fun.
So that's the town of High Cyre. Thanks,
High Cyre.
everybody, for listening.
Let us know if you've got a town tip or a fun town you've made. Keep sending us those letters. dmofnone@gmail.com.
Add us on Twitter @dmofnone.
Or you can leave us a message at the Dungeon Master Hotline, 774-203-4629.
That's it. Thanks, everyone. And keep rolling them dice.